Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the special Start and Sit episode of Wake and Take for Week 5. I've got the best starts and sits by position, as well as 3 flex plays that you should be putting into your lineup today. So go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And before we get into it, I want to go ahead and do a little bit of a recap from last week to see how we did. And I would say we're still kind of rocking and rolling here. Every week we've had a couple misses, but for the most part, we're kind of running pure. Last week we had some great success stories. I told you to start Justin Fields, start Brian Robinson, start Jamison Williams. I had you flex Tyler Lockett, flex Darnell Mooney, and flex Justice Hill, as well as sitting Ramondre Stevenson. We had a little bit of a meh. I told you guys to sit Olave. I mean, he ended up with like 14 points. So we'll go with but no touchdown, no big game or anything. But then I did have a couple misses. Not going to lie. I'd say sit Jordan Love in his first week back from injury. Dude absolutely slung it. That was bad. Kind of same process with George Kittle. I felt like, him coming back from injury, maybe not a good idea. Maybe not a good idea, especially against the Patriots with that game script. But, he played really well, got the touchdown. So that was a miss. And then also I told you guys to start Mark Andrews, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you guys to start Mark Andrews again. I'm not giving up. That's going to become the theme of this show. We're not giving up on Andrews. It's going to be the joke that carries over week to week until it hits. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right on into it. And we'll start at the quarterback position with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's going up against the Arizona Cardinals. The Vegas total here is 48.5. And right now he's the QB 14 in points per game. Only has one game with more than 20 points so far this season. But I just feel like this shootout against the Arizona Cardinals is a perfect spot for Brock Purdy to have a nice little ceiling game. You've got Deebo Samuel healthier for another week. You've got George Kittle healthier for another week. You get Brandon Ayuk getting even more acclimated as the season goes along. And of course, we saw the Juwan Jennings spike week a couple weeks ago. This passing attack is starting to come to life. And I just think that in this shootout against the Arizona Cardinals, Brock Purdy should have at least 2 touchdowns and probably at least 250 passing yards, and hopefully a little bit more upside than that as well. So I'm throwing him into my lineups this week. Pretty excited to be starting Brock Purdy against the Arizona Cardinals. And the quarterback we'll be sitting is Sam Darnold. I'm officially saying sit Sam Darnold. I know I've been kind of wishy-washy here on this show about my expectations for Sam Darnold, and I've basically just been saying at some point he'll turn into a pumpkin. So why not in pumpkin month? Why not the first Sunday of October? He finally turns back into a pumpkin against a very tough Jets defense. Through 4 weeks so far, the Jets defense has only allowed 2 passing touchdowns and 500 passing yards, which is just not a lot through 4 games. That's simply not a lot. They are top 5 in allowing pass attempts, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. Has an interception as well. Sauce Gardner, good matchup against Justin Jefferson. Just is in a good defensive line as well. I think that this could end up being a kind of gross, slow football game to where Sam Darnold's not really going to be able to sling it the way he has been so far this season. I know he's been playing very well, but this is a tough matchup against the Jets. I'm going to go ahead and sit him. I'm calling the Sam Darnold pumpkin game in week 5, so don't have him in your lineup. Now let's go ahead and move on to running back. At running back, we're going to be starting Devon Aan. And to be honest with you guys, this is a cop-out. Not very often am I going to reasonably be able to say start Devon Aan on a start-sit show. Like for the most part, any other week of this season, he's an automatic start. But given the quarterback situation and what we've seen from Miami the past couple weeks, people are very, very concerned with Devon Aan. But going up against the New England Patriots, I just feel like this is a great game for him to get back on track. He should get a ton of volume like he has been throughout the last few weeks. And that should lead to hopefully, it really only takes one explosive play, right? Just one explosive play, and I'm calling it. Devon Aan will have at least a 50-yard rushing touchdown. Let's make it 40. Let's push it down. He'll have a 40-plus yard rushing touchdown this week. I think the explosiveness will come against the Patriots. There's a lot of turmoil going on around that team. This just feels like the perfect week for the Dolphins to kind of get back on track. This will be their second week with Huntley, as far as I'm concerned right now. which will just help the gel come together even a little bit more. I think once they get firing, Devon Aan is going to be a big part of it. And he's still getting the volume. It's just the team has been so bad that he's not really being able to do much with it. But if he can get another, 15 or more touches, I mean, we saw 29 touches in week 2. Like if he can get up to 20 again, which a Patriots game script is exactly the type of game for that to happen, then Devon Aan should smash this week. I can't say start Devon Aan very often on this show, so I'm leaning into it this week. You've got to start Devon Aan. And the running back we will be sitting, and, this one you'll probably be like, Jason, really? We're sitting Ezekiel Elliott? I was already going to do that. That's fair, probably. So maybe I can extend this to Rico Dowdle, too. Sit both of your Cowboys running backs. You don't want your Cowboys running backs this week. They have a very tough matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mentioned the Jets earlier for the passing defense. The Steelers are the same against the run. They're top 5 in allowing rush attempts, allowing rush yards. They've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown throughout the first 4 weeks of the season. Only allowed 93 rush attempts for 347 rush yards and 1 rushing touchdown through 4 weeks. That's not a lot. They're very stingy on the ground. Ezekiel Elliott has no juice. Rico Dowdle has been totally fine. In a tough matchup, I think that there's no reason to start these guys. You can find a lot of running back help elsewhere, especially as the injuries are starting to pile up. If you have a Rico Dowdle, if you have an Ezekiel Elliott, keep them on your bench this week. Very tough matchup. They're splitting the volume. It's just not worth it to me. I'm avoiding this backfield this week, which will lead us to the wide receiver position. And Xavier Worthy is a must start. An absolute must start at the wide receiver position. And honestly, guys, he's probably going to be a must start rest of season. And so I wanted to use my final opportunity to be able to say start Xavier Worthy on this show. Because as we know, we try to stay away from the locks, right? We try to think a little bit here. And Xavier Worthy, now with Rasheed Rice out for the rest of the season, more than likely, I just think that he's going to turn into a player that is in everyone's lineup every single week. So I'm getting ahead of it this week. Xavier Worthy, if you're questioning it at all, don't be. Just don't. Going up against the Saints on Monday Night Football, not necessarily primed to be a shootout. There's only a 43.5 point total, and the Chiefs have been pretty stingy, and the Saints offense has kind of fallen back to earth over the last couple weeks, but I just don't think that matters. Again, there's no Rasheed Rice. And yeah, Travis Kelce's going to get more volume, but so is Xavier Worthy. We saw Patrick Mahomes' first deep touchdown pass in a long time last week when Rasheed Rice went down, just chucked it to Worthy, and he brought it in. That's how this is going to go. He's not only going to have the deep shots, though. He gets some of the intermediate work. We saw the carry in week 1, and last week he had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown. And that was in a game where, he was still, the rookie, still just not a huge part of the game plan because Rasheed Rice was playing. This is now a week where they can install him into the game plan a bit more. I would expect at least 5 targets, probably 7 or more really in this one. And he should have a really good game. I'm calling at least 100 yards, hopefully a touchdown. Feeling a great game from Xavier Worthy going up against the Saints. Should be a good one. Should be an awesome game. And speaking of, we're going to be sitting Rasheed Shahed against the Kansas City Chiefs. And this one is more of a, it's a defensive play, right? Like it is just like the Chiefs defense is pretty stingy. And I know it's not specifically against the pass. They're pretty average against the pass right now, but Rasheed Shahed has kind of come down to earth over the last couple weeks. And the Chiefs especially know how to defend the deep ball. And so I just think that Rasheed Shahed is going to have some tough sledding in this game. Like he could get some good volume, right? Like we still saw 11 targets and 8 receptions against the Falcons last week. Not many deep shots, was being utilized a little bit more intermediately. But I just think that the Saints, for example, are going to probably have to lean on Alvin Kamara a bit more. I'm feeling honestly a Chris Olave game really when I look at the way that this is going to be matched up. And I just think Rasheed Shaheed's going to have a hard time finding the explosive play this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just not what that defense gives up. They'll give up the short stuff. They'll give up the medium stuff, but they're not going to, like, if Rasheed Shaheed got a 70-yard touchdown or something like that, it's a broken play. And I just don't want to bet on that. I think that there's going to be some better options this week than Rasheed Shaheed. Obviously still getting a lot of volume, obviously playing really, really well. And so, I mean, if you're in a shallower league, you're probably still going to start him, but know that he's trending more towards his bust potential than he is his boom potential this week in this matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, it's a low Vegas point total. The Chiefs are pretty stingy. They're not great against the pass, but they're at least pretty stingy, and they're not going to be giving up these chunk plays to Rasheed Shahed like a lot of the other teams have. So we're going with the sit Rasheed Shahed. And at tight end, as mentioned before, I'm not giving up on Mandrews. I am not giving up on Mandrews. This is a very fun game. We've got the Ravens taking on the Bengals, so it's a little bit of a divisional shootout. We've got a 48.5 point total, which is one of the higher ones on the slate this week. And if you go look, Mark Andrews, while the last couple weeks have been pretty bad, he's still out there running the routes. He's still running the routes. And the Bengals passing defense has already given up 6 passing touchdowns through the first 4 weeks of the season, which is, outside the top 20 so far. So this is a really big opportunity for Mark Andrews to score his first touchdown of the season. Get out there, get 5 targets, get 4 of them for 50 yards and a touchdown. That's all I'm asking for from Andrews. But if he can't get up to show up at this Bengals-Ravens divisional matchup, then I don't know what's going to fire him up. Like, this should be a vintage Mandrews performance going up against the Bengals. The Bengals are getting hot. The Ravens are getting hot. And everyone is getting out on Mandrews. Like, Mark has to be seeing this stuff, and he has to feel fired up. And I'm not giving up on him. We are firing up Mark Andrews against the Cincinnati Bengals at least one more week. At least one more week before we totally give up and panic on this player. This is a good matchup for him and should be a very fun game. And the next one, it's probably going to burn me. It's probably going to burn me. It's sitting David Njoku. And it's going up against the Commanders. So they have been getting eaten alive. Absolutely eaten alive, but I still just don't want to trust any Browns pass catcher right now. I know that Deshaun Watson's starting to play a little bit better, but I think that especially David Njoku coming back from injury this week, there's no real reason to fire him up. I mean, you probably have to since it's the tight end position. Honestly, I hate anytime I do this show, the start-sit tight end dichotomy. It's just tough. I mean, like, it is such a hellscape. Like, for the most part, you're starting anyone. But coming off of injury in a game where, Amari Cooper should be able to be good. Jerry Jeudy should be able to be good. The running defense or offense should be able to be good. I don't see David Njoku getting one of his ceiling games. I think that they'll use this as a bit more of an acclimation game for him. And in PPR leagues, he'll probably still be fine. I mean, he scored 8 points in week 1, and that was a tight end 9 finish. So that just goes to show, right? Like, you can't really sit a tight end, but if there is one this week that's kind of at the top end, I feel a little bit more comfortable sitting a David Njoku coming back from injury against a defense to where, yeah, they're going to be able to kind of sling it and get open against him. But I think that they could just utilize the other pass catchers instead of utilizing their injured tight end his first week back. We'll see. That's kind of been burning me. That logic the last couple of weeks, especially at the tight end position. It was last week, George Kittle. He scored the touchdown. The week before that, it was Jake Ferguson, and he scored the touchdown. So maybe I'm just going to be wrong again, but still, my logic is going to remain the same. That's something I believe in. I feel like if a player's coming back from an injury, has missed the last few weeks, it's going to take some time to get back to the game speed, especially on an offense like Cleveland, where the quarterback situation is very, very hit or miss. So I'm just going to be sitting Njoku this week and reevaluate. Which leads us now to the flex plays of the week. I've got 3 flex plays for you. We'll start with Jordan Whittington versus the Packers. Jordan Whittington is coming off an 8-target game. It's incredible. He's had more targets every single week since the injuries to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. He's gone from 3 to 4 to 5 to 8, if I remember correctly. And this matchup in particular, the Packers-Rams game, is a 49-point total. It's the highest total on the board, scheduled to be the biggest shootout of the week. I think Jordan Whittington should be able to feast underneath like he has last week, get at least 6 receptions and 50-something yards, and hopefully a touchdown in this one. Jordan Whittington is a very awesome flex play this week. With the injuries piling up for the Rams, Whittington is the one starting to step up, and I'm calling it this week in a shootout against the Packers. The next 2 are based on injuries, so these are kind of smash starts this week, and that's what flex plays are all about, baby. Wan'Dale Robinson heading up against the Seahawks. This is another one that should be maybe not a shootout, but like there should be opportunity for the Giants to pass the ball. 42.5, right? 42.5 point total, not that high, and that's because the Giants are bad, not the Seahawks. The Seahawks are slinging the ball. So I can see the Giants kind of abandoning the run and just using Wan'Dale Robinson a ton. Why Wan'Dale Robinson? Well, Malik Nabers is probably out this week with his concussion. I believe as of recording this that he is not expected to play. He might have already actually officially been put out, but I know that the latest reports are that he is not supposed to play this week, which lets Wan'Dale Robinson be huge. I mean, he's had double-digit targets with Malik Nabers playing. There's potential this week for Wan'Dale Robinson to have 20 targets. 20. And I really don't think that's an exaggeration. So you have to fire him up this week, especially in PPR leagues. But in half and standard too, I mean, he should get a lot of volume in a catch-up scenario against the Seahawks with no Malik Nabers. And our last flex play is going to be Austin Eckler going up against the Browns. As of right now, Brian Robinson Jr. is a game-time decision. I don't believe he'll play, but even if he does, he'll be less than 50%. Austin Eckler's been picking up full practices all week, returning from his injury. So he should be full go, ready to catch some passes, ready to run the ball if anything is not working right with Brian Robinson. And Austin Eckler has even been productive with Brian Robinson on the field. So I just think no matter what, even if Brian Robinson plays, you should be firing up Austin Eckler in this game. Could be a sneaky fun game against the Browns, both teams in the 20s or something like that. Maybe not a total shootout, but still a good competitive football game. Austin Eckler has had double-digit fantasy points every single week so far this year. So against the Browns with a banged-up Brian Robinson, I think he'll keep it going. So that is our starts and sits of the week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks for being there in the chat. I hope I answered all your questions, guys. And good luck in week 5. We'll be back tomorrow reacting to all the games live on Wake and Take, 10 a.m. Eastern here on the Player Profiler YouTube. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.